All right, Zels, 49,814,030.
Is that what we're getting paid?
I want to know who that 30th viewer is. This morning, Ace to let me know we're close to 50 million views.
Incredible, mate.
50 million views since we started the show. And there's going to be a great prize, courtesy of Stecco, our mates at Stecco, Mike Sharman and Sterling Levesley from Retroviral. Wonderful blokes. Mike, top creative in this country.
Beautiful.
They've organized through Stecco, one of their clients, for a magnificent prize. And that's going to be an inverter. It's a 3 kilowatts VA. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, sounds right.
5 kilowatt battery, 4 solar panels, 450 watts, 32,000 Rand is the value. The only kicker is going to be whoever wins this. It's got to find your own electrician or be the electrician to install it. It's all about sustainability, Stecco, a bit like our show, to make it to 50 million views over the last 2 years. And thanks again to Imad for that magnificent production. It must be the only reason people come on here. And Aster's identification of photos, and maybe your charisma, your guns. I think your guns are why people come in.
I'm not sure, mate.
People coming to see you I've eaten in the last 3 weeks.
On that 3 kVA inverter, mate, apparently it comes with 4 solar panels, 450-watt solar panels. So,
mate, you win. Listen, I just said that.
did you? I didn't hear it.
4 solar panels, 450 watts, 32,000 Rand. Stecco. They're all about solutions.
Juice.
Like we are about rugby solutions.
Juice.
They're about solutions. They're
Yes.
about sustainability. And they're about powering and shaping the future. And we are always talking about the good news stories in South African rugby, the good news stories in
Correct.
world rugby. But we're just talking rugby.
Yes.
I got a wonderful, wonderful compliment. And not meant to be a compliment, just a way of things. So Pierre Smith, who won the Citizen Watch, he got my number, he gave me a call, and he said thanks. Listened to the show on the way to work, couldn't believe that my name was called out, couldn't believe that I got the watch, a citizen of the show. And he said his wife said that it's interesting listening to those guys, but and no disrespect him, man, but yes, they talk a lot of cuck at times. So we do. And he said that's what makes it so special is it's like chatting to his dad over a brandy and coke, over a whiskey, over a beer, is we talk rugger, but then we also talk all shapes and sizes and all things rugby. This is a rugger show. It's banter. It's two mates. I like to call this Oak, the good-looking guy with the guns. I like to call him a mate who knows his rugby. He's the editor of SARugbymag magazine. But, to get to 50 million views, I just want to thank everyone out there.
Spot on.
You guys have been amazing. We have such an international kind of following that people love to hear a bit of South African twice a week. Brandy Coke, Boerewors, Brandewyn, and a bikkie Afrikaans.
So I bumped into a couple at the gym who watched the show, and he's an ardent fan, watches every episode. She said she just watches to see us come over the mountain, and then she checks out.
I know people love us coming over the mountain.
Yeah.
And I told Pierre that I do have an alter ego, oom Flip van die Paas. Hier by die Vredenberg. Dan bel hy altyd vir Dobbo en vir Dobbo. Nee, God, jy moet vir Sjoe Kolisie, jy moet vir Pieter Steff, even Etzebeth, jy moet al die manne weer terugkry in die Kaap. Dobbo, jy skitterende vertoning in die Bulls. Maar Clayton Blommetjies, jy moet hom bietjie vashou. The child, he must recover.
I think you should just do the whole show like this.
So I love it up. I love it up the West Coast. Obviously, been born in Carls River, growing up in Durbanville with New Zealand and Irish parents. As I said, the Mauriki Burki. Went to Afrikaans junior school, English high school. Did my national service in the police force. I love Afrikaans. I love the Bulls. Always been a big Bulls fan. The only thing is I love the Stormers a bit more. And that's going to be a big one in a fortnight's time. But the derbies today, this weekend, it's going to be the Lions hosting the Stormers, and it's going to be the Sharks going up to play Jake White's Bulls. We're going to talk URC. We're going to talk how strong we are in the URC in terms of our league standings, especially the Bulls and the Sharks. The Stormers and the Lions are there as outsiders. But before we go back to that, I just want to say to everyone who comes up to us for handshakes, you know what? We'd also appreciate a smile. And be kind to the world. And always say, Box by 10 and Stormers to win.
I love it.
And there's a lot of Bulls fans in Cape Town.
Oh, mate, there's a lot. Did you see at the Cape Town Stadium?
Jeez, a lot
A
out
whole
your way.
stack of them. I got a guy showing me video clips. He was in the stands. Everybody was cheering. They thought Clayton had converted the kick. And then all the Bulls fans erupted when they realized, mate, he missed.
Yeah, I saw Jean-André Joubert, our social media manager, all the way from Brackenfell, just south of Pretoria, I think it is. I saw him, like he sent me that big thumbs up, pumping the fist, and we know how he looked at that moment of the try. Slumped down, that brandy was going nowhere.
Taking his watch off, man.
Taking his watch off. He knew it was going to be a bad night getting back to Brackenfell, but then it turned into euphoria. The fine margins. And you know, an interesting thing about that as well, Charles Kraus through the URC sent me all the stats of the kickers. Monty said he'll get back to us. He also wants to canvass a few more opinions.
Oh, cool.
So it's not just his own in terms of how he experienced the old leather ball at school, and he's under 20 days, and then obviously into the new age balls as such. But what was I talking about now?
You were talking about Bulls fans in Cape Town.
I was just thinking about
this
Ace
was
on
brought
his
to you
way
by
home.
the Alzheimer's medication.
I was just thinking about Ace on his way home on Saturday night. We say that because he hasn't made it home on occasion when the Bulls have lost, which was often in Cape Town. But yeah, that's going to be a cracker. We're going to have so much fun, and we're going to announce the winner of the Stecco Prize, the 32,000 Rand inverter. We're going to announce that on the Monday after the Stormers beat the Bulls in Pretoria. And it may go to Jake to keep him alive. Sustainability, mate. Shaping the future of the Stormers.
Listen, I've got an update for you on the kicking. So a guy from America, expat, South African guy from the Rocket Foot Academy. He coaches American football kickers, college football kickers, and he works with a guy called Mike Hollis, who played for the Buffalo Bills for many years. And they've come up with a kicking strategy. I mean, in the NFL, anybody who follows that, you'll see they kick that ball straight up. That ball is slightly smaller than a rugby ball, which means that the sweet spot's even smaller. And he said, listen, spot on. That's the way to kick a ball for maximum efficiency, maximum range, to have it straight up. And he sent me a whole bunch of stuff around it. And it's some interesting insights there. So,
do you send it to Gareth Wright and Marnie Lebok?
No, mate. I'm keeping that IP to myself. I promised I wouldn't be shipping it on. But there's certainly some learnings in there, I think, for South African rugby coaches. And I think we may have tapped into something there.
All right. But that's what I was thinking about, was the kicking. Thanks for reminding me. So Charles Kraus sent me all the statistics and the team ones, which he spoke about earlier in the week.
Yes.
And then he sent me all the individual statistics. And obviously, Jordan Hendrickse and Sia are right up there. Sia's 91% in terms of his URC kicking success rate. Jordan's 84%. So the Sharks, if they lose games, it's not because they can't kick their points. It's because they're not scoring enough tries. And that could explain why they are in the top 4 of the URC going into this weekend's games. But Yuri Matia was 12 from 12 in the URC going into last Saturday's game.
There you go.
So he has an 80% return now. And I just thought, poor Dobbo, the one thing, having lost Sasha, having lost Damon, and having lost Marnie, the one thing he knew that he could bank on was that Yuri Matia doesn't miss. And on this particular day, he misses 3 in a row in the last quarter of a game. I mean, that's a coach killer, isn't it?
I'm sure Jake would feel the same way. A couple of his guys missed some kicks too.
David Kriel is not kicking 100% before the game.
True.
He was kicking at 70.
True.
He was kicking at 75. He's now down to 70. But also, and a lot of people said to me about David Kriel missed kicks and Yuri and Clayton missed kicks. The context of when they missed their kicks. Now, the thing there was that 4 kicks were missed in the last 15 minutes for the Stormers. The Bulls didn't miss 4 kicks in the last 15 minutes. So that's, and it's again, kickers miss. It's like you said to me in the NFL, you only know when the kicker's played is when he misses,
100%.
not when he scores, okay?
Yeah.
And I've looked at all the history of kickers, and one of the first things is so-and-so missed in his 411th game for the first time. My God. So, but thanks for that. Talking about Super Bowl as well, you've educated me a lot about it. It was the first time I watched the Super Bowl, and I actually watched it through from 1:30 till about 5 that morning. I loved it, actually understanding the nuances, and it reminded me a bit of a really aggressive Bok defense playing against a very extravagant All Black side and just snuffing them out and winning. So the Eagles beat the Chiefs. Chiefs not your team. I know it's Moneyman's team.
Yep.
He hasn't recovered yet. He hasn't recovered from Wales. He hasn't recovered from the Chiefs. It's been a bad week for him.
It has been a tough week.
But yeah, Derby week. We had this amazing 47,000 sellout in the Cape Town Stadium, DHL Stadium for the Bulls against the Stormers. First time Jake White's Bulls had won. But just how healthy South African rugby is to get that kind of crowd. I think we'll have a big crowd in a fortnight's time when the Stormers go to Pretoria. I'm expecting a biggish crowd in Loftus. I don't know about Johannesburg and Emirates Airline Park, formerly known as Ellis Park. I just hope they can maybe get to 20,000 because of the lure of the Stormers. Because the Stormers are the best supported team at home, but they also contribute to the best attendances at any other ground outside of obviously a Leinster and Munster, any other ground when they play other teams. I mean, they are the star attraction. And shout out to my mate Dobbo. You've done wonders with that team.
Spot on.
With not the largest budgets, with homegrown talent and clever identification of experienced players. But that Lions Stormers game is always a cracker in Johannesburg because both teams play such positive rugby. Where do you see it going? How do you see it shaping? I mean, you wore the Lions jersey last time. They haven't won since.
I love the Lions. I love the Lions.
Ever since you wore that Lions jersey, they haven't really
that's
won.
why I did it. No, it's been... Lions are amazing, mate. Love the Lions, love their attitude, love their fight. I don't have them to win this week, but I mean, I think we're in for a good game. I think historically, when these two teams go at it, it's a high-scoring shootout, and it's almost a sprint. It's a sprint from the start to the end. So, very much looking forward to it. Obviously, a couple of injuries to consider going into the games, but the Stormers will be very eager to bounce back from a disappointing loss.
I mean, the Stormers will have targeted this one in a sense that they would have backed themselves regardless to win their home games. They've dropped the one against Glasgow when they were in it for 72 minutes. Again, a couple of poor decisions cost them against a very good Glasgow side that's currently second on the table. People tend to forget that. They make up most of the Scottish side as well. And then the cruelty of that result in Cape Town. 5 tries against the Bulls, 33-32 conversion to come, last kick of the game basically. 5 points becomes 2, but it still keeps them in the top 10. And with the win, a couple of results going their way, they could get to Pretoria in 6th place on the log. So not all lost for them. They won't get that top 4, but they certainly should make the top 8. And the Lions should also be pushing for the top 8.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the same applies to the Lions. They've got 2 games in hand on most of the teams above them, and if they manage to bank bonus point wins, they could jump all the way into the top 5. So lots to play for. The Lions haven't beaten the Stormers at Ellis Park in 6 straight games dating back to 2020, and they've lost 6 straight, I think, to the Stormers since ending the Stormers' home run in 2021. They did an inaugural URC season when they beat them.
They didn't end their home run. They started the DHL Stadium career.
Yeah.
They started with that big defeat. I think it was 35-19
Right.
At the DHL Stadium. Everyone said, get rid of Dobbo, get rid of this team. I think I may have even dropped one of those in
really,
at the time,
mate?
Back in the day.
What?
Back in the day before we drank Coronas.
Sure.
And no, I was quite critical of them. They come off a poor tour overseas. They'd struggled, and then, wow, they turned it around, came back, won it. And I always say, it was a joint effort. It was a Bulls-Stormers effort to win. We needed the Bulls and Stormers to win that one. The Bulls went to Dublin, knocked over Leinster, they came back to Cape Town, and we won. And I also don't forget that incredible semi-final, Ulster scoring, taking a 15-10 lead, us scoring in the last play of the game in the corner, right in front of where I was. I was a guest invite in the President's Suite that day.
Sure.
It was wonderful. As Gillian said to me, never turn those down again. We had a stand experience to go right back to that President's Suite. It was amazing.
Oh, fabulous.
And then Marnie Lebok lined it up and banned it right down the middle, 17-15. I think Dobbo was on his way onto the field to talk about extra time. When he got there, the kick was over and the Stormers had won. So in that first season, lots that also went our way. Some disappointing results when we've been on tour in the URC, combined with the Champions Cup. But wow, the local derbies are what we live for.
Yeah.
The crowd attendance shows that, the television attendance shows that. That it's rude health to say it in South African rugby. And let's boast about it. Let's celebrate it because, you know, I've been there at the darkest times. I was with the Boks with the Rudolf Stroily era. It's kind of, you and I were both writing and reporting on the Alistair Coetzee era, 2016, 17, the lowest ebb, ranked 7th in the world. So we can beat our chest, and boast about what the Springboks under Rassie and Jacques have done. Back-to-back World Cups,
Jeez.
British and Irish Lions, rugby championship titles, 3 successive home Vodacom URC finals that we've hosted in this country. Stormers won 1, lost 1, narrowly at Munster, the Bulls obviously against Glasgow. And what we take from that is the captain of Glasgow was South African, Carl Steyn, and the coach was Franco Smith, South African. So we'll claim a South African victory there as well. And then the man of the match for Munster was Ergie Snyman, and Jean Klein was next to him. So actually South Africa's won all three.
Wow. If there are any overseas viewers on this show and you still stick around, mate, hats off to you. I don't know how you managed to do it.
Mate, we love you in Ireland. We love you in Wales. We love you in Scotland. But yes, I am really loving the Italian Oaks at the moment. I wanted them kicked out of Six Nations to accommodate us 2-3 seasons ago. Then they beat Wales.
Now you want Wales to get kicked out.
No, Wales are kicking themselves out. Then they beat Wales, and they haven't stopped beating Wales since then. But loving how Italy's played in the Six Nations, obviously. Tommaso Allen into his 84, he's played 84 tests now, and he won the under-19 championship, beating the Sharks in Durban with Western Province in 2012. He's the nephew of John Allen, who played for Scotland and South Africa at hooker. For those who may be late to the rugby scene, he played for Scotland under 20s and then went to Italy. I believe he's going to be featured in SA Rugby magazine in the next couple of issues.
Correct.
So there, we claim another one there, South African. Province Boykie, eh? 1 season here. They gave Tim Sweel a contract over him. We saw how that ended.
Not well.
Not well for Tim. So when one door shuts in life, always remember it may be a good thing. Off you go to somewhere else, okay? Yeah. But you've been a big fan of the Lions. So tell me why, firstly. They started so well. And everyone was saying they don't have the depth to go on, and that's the naysayers seem to have been proven correct at the moment. What makes the Lions in Johannesburg at home a special team to watch?
Yeah, I think the Lions use the high false advantage to their benefit, and they maximise it. You know, they're very much a conditioning-based team. They're a team that have traditionally baited guys into playing a wide, high-tempo game, and then obviously the high fault factor kicks in. So if you're a coastal team and you come up to Joburg and you have to put in a lot of ball in play time, a lot of running meters, and I guess the thin air gets to you, so they use that to their advantage. And then they're a team full of overachievers, a bunch of guys, many of whom are not in the sort of Springbok contention or historically haven't been, and they do the fundamentals really well. Guys like Asanati Ntlabakanye, who just signed an extension with the Lions. He's the scrum anchor there, that set piece fires with him. Frankie Horn, I think, is massively underrated. Dylan Johnson, Chug, was telling me the other day how he got dunked by Frankie Horn in schoolwear rugby, Sacks versus Paul Boys. I think he's a Paul Boys All Boy.
You think he was there before Evan Ruth, and then after Cam Hanekom. They had 3 of those number 8s within 5 years playing. Yeah.
So the Lions are just, I love the fact that they punch above their weight. There's a bunch of guys there who've been overlooked at other places. I think the loss of Cade Volhouter to injury early on probably hurt the Lions a little bit. And like you mentioned, they don't have the depth of some of the other teams in terms of the quality. So when they have an injury, it does hurt them. It's going to be interesting to see where they go with Sanelli on his way out, but a bunch of core players sticking around. That's a commitment to the Lions and to the Lions plan. And when you've got players invested in what you're trying to achieve, I think it's a very good thing. Signs of good things to come.
All right, so that people don't know, it's an in-house joke. So Dylan Johnson is SA Rugby magazine and a Abari Media. He's a sports writer, a Sax old boy. Went to school with Ollie, my son, in a great era for Sax. Led by Ollie Skiermans. They beat Paul Jim that year. Ollie Skiermans scored the try. Not my Ollie, another Ollie. Very good rugby player. Decided after school, I'm not going to play anymore. Went to Stellenbosch, has now gone on to a career. A lot of those boys, they played at school, but kind of no interest post that. They beat Paul Jim that year. But yeah, Dill Johnson is a guy that played first, second, third, fourth, I think maybe first, sixth, and seventh. No, he says he pulled out of the 7th game, all in one season. There's never been an Oak who's been in so many...
Did he work his way up or down?
There's never been an Oak who's been so many team photos at the end of the season. But a great young kid. He loves his footy as well.
Great boy.
Yeah, great boy, and one of the new additions to your team, eh? Mm-hmm. So yeah, to Dill Johnson, he has memories of Frankie Horn dumping him. I think every Sax boy has a story to tell about going on the N1 to Paul and playing Paul Boys High. And I remember Ollie once saying to me in I think under 15 in that, he said, when we play Paul Jim, and at times they've been better than Paul Boys High, we run them a lot closer, and we play Paul Boys High. It's like such an ugly kind of like game always. Those Oaks just seem angry. And he said, why aren't the Paul Jim Oaks angry? I said, because they are a co-ed school, so they're happy. and Paul Boys are just, those Oaks are angry, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of testosterone there. And then he said the great irony was he played an under 15 game there, and he got into this verbal with some bloke, and they were just swearing at each other in Afrikaans using the "Yo Masa Pia," you know. And then they found out they were both English at the end.
That is brilliant.
But he says it's the universal language of South African rugby.
Isn't that true?
To use that big P word.
Yeah.
And it's like, remember when Adrian Strauss, when they played Samoa, Springbok captain and hooker from the Bulls, and the Samoan fullback with the long fingernails kind of got into an uncompromising position when he tried to clean out more than the ball. They tried to clean out Adrian Strauss's balls, and he also charged at him with that expletive, "Yo, Masa." I love it. Oh, I love us. I love South Africa. I love South African rugby.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful when the rivalries are strong. A lot of Paul Boys High, it's Origin Week in the Vodacom URC. It's a celebration of where these players came from, their schools, their clubs, and it could be a Paul Boys High Old Boys reunion up in Johannesburg. There's so many that are playing for the Lions, and many that are in the Stormers setup and the extended setup. But obviously, Evan Ruiz, one of the big name players of modern. When I say modern, in the last few years, coming out of Paul Boys High, Salman Murat, who captained that incredible Paul Boys High side that went unbeaten. Sean Hanekom was the coach. I think that as first team coach, they didn't lose for 5 years. And then obviously Frans Malherbe, the man with the engine that starts in Bredasdorp and it ends in Johannesburg. It just never stops going. He's also Pretoria Boys High, Manny Russ, Pretoria Boys High, Frankie Horn, Pretoria Boys High, Paul Boys High, getting my P's mixed up. But a wonderful institution, especially in the last 10, 15 years of what they've produced, right up there with Grey College. And then a celebration of every school that has produced players that will be playing this weekend. When you look at the Lions setup, that prop that you love saying his name. What's his name again?
Asenasi and Klabakanye.
Now spell it and say it backwards.
Oh, mate, no.
Come on, you can
I'm
do
not
it.
even going to try.
Huh? Can Ricky try?
I mean, I could spell it, but
Can
there's no
Ricky
ways.
try? Where the hell is Ricky?
No, Ricky's been on holiday, mate.
It's Trump deported.
He's been sent out. He's on his way to Venezuela.
Hey, can you pronounce Walmart?
Oh, classic.
How many points for a try? How many points for a try?
5.
No, Ricky, how many points for a try?
Oh, it's 5 points.
No, 5 points, eh? How many for a conversion?
2.
How many for a penalty?
3.
The drop goal?
3.
Now, can you pronounce Pick and Pay?
People have to have seen that.
Yeah, it's a clip when knocking the Latino Oaks, who are apparently illegal immigrants in various parts of the United States, and the questions they asked them about, you would have seen it on all the social medias, but if you haven't, it is quite humorous. They asked this guy behind when ICE comes in, the guys, the immigration guys, they ask him how many points for a touchdown. The guy says 6. He says, who's the most popular female pop singer? Taylor Swift. And then they say, pronounce Walmart. And this poor guy is in a spin. He's, mate! And that's when they kick the door down.
Walmart.
Off he goes back to Mexico. But how's Ricky been?
No, he's been good, mate. He's
Been good, eh? We'll bring him out later in the month. When he can give a proper assessment of what's going on the global rugby environment.
He comes up with the big ones.
Yeah, so when you look at the Lions setup, Henke van Wyk has signed again, which is a great signing,
Yep.
okay? Horn is back. I do feel they're missing Jordan Hendricks, so they've moved to the Sharks, so that has weakened them a little bit. I would love to see Tyrone Green back from Harlequins playing for them. He would really fit in well with that backline. But
I think in Kewen, they've probably got the same thing. I think they've got the Tyrone Green replica, really, in Kewen Horn. Physical runner, backs himself, probably more inclined to actually contribute in the kicking game. And like I said earlier, if Cade was there, I don't think you would notice as much that Jordan isn't there, because I think Cade's appetite for standing up in the kicking game would really help this Lions team, because they can hurt you wide, and if you move to cover that and they start taking the space in the backfield, then they're really dangerous.
So you've got the Stormers to win, though, which would shock me. I nearly fell off my chair.
I do, mate. Stormers
it's the first time you've backed Dobber Stormers.
I always back Dobbers.
No, he knows. He knows.
Oh,
He knows.
come on.
He always sends me messages and he says, hey, tell Zels he's a you know what. Yeah, tell him to get back in the gym. The guns are looking small. But What would it take for the Lions to actually win this game?
Now, look, the Lions are very capable of winning this game. Very capable of winning this game. But history is history for a reason. The Stormers have got the wood on the Lions in the last couple of games. They're not shy to win at Ellis Park. The Stormers are not at their best, but certainly they've got the belief. And I think last week would have stung them badly. And they know that it's close to do or die time. It is important to win this game to keep climbing up the ladder. And there's a lot of guys, this is all these derbies is an unofficial race for box spots. So the guys that want to be higher in the box picking order generally try and make a statement in these games, unless obviously you're even Etzebeth and you stay out of these derbies. But for the rest of the guys, they give it hammer and tongs. So I expect the Stormers, I think the impetus of their track record against the Lions and just their sort of continuity and the quality of those players, I think will be good enough to give them the win. I haven't given them a massive edge in this. I think it's going to be close, but I think the Stormers take it.
But invariably, there are close games there where, look, both sides' goal-kicking success rates are down. Mm-hmm. They rely on scoring tries. They score some of the most spectacular tries, and if they get on a roll.
Yeah.
Altitude will be a factor. I know Dobber was training out in Paarl in 40 degrees just to try and get the Lunds to kind of scream a bit before he takes his players up there. The Stormers mentally, for me, the big thing is mentally, they would have got on that plane this week thinking we can conquer the world. How much damage was done by the narrow miss, or is it irrelevant? Because I think of Philippe Contamponi when they beat us, the Springboks, and Argentina beat the Springboks. Marnie Lebok missed that last minute penalty. And he said even if that penalty had gone over, the performance would have been the same. And he would have been as complimentary of his team. And Dobber was saying that to me earlier in the week. We would have loved the win, the 5 points, keeping the home record against the Bulls. It doesn't change what they did for 79 and a half minutes. It was amazing the way they came back into that game with a set piece that was struggling. A scrum that got decimated in the first 45 minutes. So will they take those positives and say, we got 2 league points out of it, disregarded, an away win makes up for that home defeat?
I don't know so much if they'll be looking at it glass half full. They're probably looking at it glass half empty, and I think that will fire them up emotionally. I mean, there's a clip that the Stormers put out from halftime where Dion Fourie telling the guys, listen, it feels like we're going through the motions. Don't do that. Let's pull it together and make things happen. And you saw the response in the second half. So I think the Stormers will sort of arrive with that kind of focus. And that's one thing about this team, right, is they can dig themselves into a hole, but then they've been proven they've got the character to dig themselves out of it. So I think that'll very much be the feature of the talk this week.
Okay, so you've coached. By all accounts, you're a very good coach and inspirational coach. You've coached at club level, schoolboy level. I bumped into schoolboys who still say, Zels, wow, he changed my life in terms of outlook. He was such an amazing mentor to me. How is it possible? And I see it with so many different teams. You spend all week training. There's 47,000 people at a ground, and then your captain has to say to you, don't go through the motions out there. Is that a thing of maybe you're trying too hard, or there's a bit of a freeze frame, or kind of like a subconscious paralysis going out there? How can a team then not just instinctively from the outset have fire in the belly when they go out?
Yeah,
I'm not just talking the Stormers on the Dion Fourie thing, but generally.
I think that's definitely a sports psychology kind of question. I mean, in my experience, I think oftentimes there's a focus point in the week, and sometimes that focus point doesn't necessarily match up to what the challenge is on game day. And so you go into a match, you've got some history, you've played these guys before. Maybe there's a bit of complacency because you smashed them, or maybe there's a bit of lack of belief that you can beat them because you've been smashed so many times by them. And so the focal point of the week kind of addresses that kind of backstory perhaps, or it's very technically minded. It's about beating them in a particular facet of the game. So when you get to the match day and the challenge is different to that, it's not what your focus has been. Sometimes I suppose that maybe impacts the output. Or, when you start a game and Cam Honeycorn runs through half the team, I think that does take a lot of the steam out of whatever your motivation was going into it. And so you kind of have to rally around that. And that's why, as odd as it seems, in pro sport, you really do rely on the experience of guys who've been there before, who faced that adversity and have beaten it to come back and win games. And so obviously a guy like Brunus in his late 30s, with lots of experience, guys listen when he talks.
Late 30s, you mean early 40s?
Or whatever it is now. Where is he now?
Legend, man. Close to 40,
is he? Yeah.
Close to 40, but it looks like he's about 25 in the way he plays.
Yeah.
Franco Horn, a big game for him, up against So it was Cam Honeycomb who was in grade 10 when Evan Roos was in matric, and I think it was Evan Roos who was in grade 10 when Franco Warm was in matric.
Brilliant.
So maybe Evan Roos then comes away with the Man of the Match award. He will want to show Rassie Erasmus
time.
again. He can back it up. He grew into that game. If you look at the Stormers, it's pretty much the same 23, I think, that will be playing this weekend. Where are the areas that they won't encounter a scrum obviously as strong? There's no Wilco Low in that Lions setup, so their scrum will be will function a bit more. What do they need to do to come away from Johannesburg with the win and potentially with 5 points?
No, I think you mentioned it. The set piece is the start of it all. They seem to have fixed their line-out woes that they had earlier in the year. Now it's the scrum that'll be under question. The Lions would have watched that tape and thought, hey, this is a great opportunity for Asanati to prove he's on the same level as Wilco. Go crumple that Stormers scrum. So, and for the Stormers, the challenge is the opposite, right? Let's salvage some respect here. And that is a huge, huge factor in this game. That's why all the moves to depower the scrum and eliminate the scrum from the game really do take away the core of the contest, because getting ascendancy at the set piece, specifically scrum time, changes the shape of everything that happens after that. So that is vital for the Stormers, especially in a game where you expect the number of carries to go up and potentially the number of unforced errors to go up, which means you're going to have more scrums. So vital that they sort out the scrum.
And goal kicking as well. If they can be on 80%,
The more I think about it, I think it's the stadium, mate. I mean,
Yuri Matier had a miss, 12 from 12. I mean, I know
Yeah.
he's missed a couple in the Champions Cup, and he's a good goal kicker. We've seen
Great
that when he
goal
played
kicker,
for
yeah.
Marties in the Varsity Cup. He captained them to glory. He was the one thing that we know he can kick. Look, he hit the post with one. Those are the margins again. The other two, I think he will think, how did I actually miss them? Pressure does do a lot to people, and it's something he's got to bounce back from. He's got the 10 jersey at the moment. Damon's still a while from coming back. Sasha, a bit from coming back. And then obviously Mani Lebok, we don't know how long he's going to be out for. But this is an opportunity for him to say it was just a day and it is the stadium. I can get it right. Zas on the win. He's scoring a lot of tries. Maybe cut down his error rate a bit. The midfield, Similani's getting another opportunity. One thing about Dobber, he gives opportunity to players, sink or swim. I'd love to see, even like when I see Roach come off the bench, I mean, starting off the bench, he's going to be a big player. He excites me as much as Ethan Hooker excited you, and then also excited me.
Yeah.
We got some good youngsters coming through
big
there.
time. And credit to Dan du Plessis. Came out of the freezer, started the game, was superb.
Man, Dan du Plessis. I was fortunate enough to watch Carl and Michael du Plessis. So Carl du Plessis, Jean-Luc's dad, and the Prince of Winds. I mean, I often just watch his 80s clips. Just love them.
Highlights, yeah.
And then, but Michael du Plessis, he was the nutter as far as we're concerned. The madman. Okay, the mad dentist. Fearless when it came to putting his body on the line. Kind of revolutionized 10 play back in the day, where our 10s were traditional kicking 10s. The Nas Boerters, the Vet Russes, Gerald Boss, Robbie Blairs, the Lance Sherrills that came after that, the Johan Deurs who played for Stellenbosch and a bit for Western Province, the Hippie Van Sales. He was a running 10, and a 10 that's just made for the modern game. A combination of a Larkham and a Cart in the way he played, and a Wilkinson. That combination you put together, that was Michael du Plessis. And Dan du Plessis, his son, has got that same mongrel, okay? Disregard for his body. I mean, that's why he takes so many injuries.
Yeah,
but
crash
for him to
test
get
dummy.
through the amount of time that he did, I mean,
Yeah.
that du Plessis name, I mean, they were born with something very special when it comes to rugby genes, okay? And it's great to see the two cousins taking the game and adding to the kind of legacy and the longevity of what their dads did in the 80s for Western Province and the limited chances they had for the Springboks. So shout out to Dan du Plessis. I thought Samuel Murat was very good against the Bulls. What I liked about the Stormers was the way they came back in that second half. And Brock Harris, closing on 40, to come on and stabilise that scrum the way he did. I believe Neetland for sure may be back for this weekend in the 23. Massive for the Stormers if he is back. And I just think the Stormers, on balance, will just have a little bit too much for the Lions. I've got them to win this game 35-30.
Nice.
It's going to be a high-scoring game.
Look, I mean,
lots of tries.
Yeah.
It's going to be a one score as far as I'm concerned. It's going to be ebbs and flows. But I've just got the Stormers to have that little bit more class at the end, a little bit more polish, and maybe a little bit more set-piece dominance. But they play a game that also brings out the best in the Lions because they do play a loosely structured game.
Yeah. They just
I got them to win 35-30, break into that top 6. All's well again in Cape Town.
I'm going to say that the Stormers win this 32-29. I've got them to win by 3, and it is going to be a high-scoring shootout. I think they haven't scored less than 29 points in this fixture in the last 6 matches, I think. So score is always high there, and I think it's going to be a close one.
All right, so if you are a betting type of person, as Zels is, I mean, he's out there all the time. Ka-ching, ka-ching, Grand West Casino. Eh? They don't have sports betting there, but I see you going on that one-arm bandit. Visit the Money Man's page. He's always up there with. I know he's trying to recover from the Welsh defeat, second defeat, and he's very happy that Gatlin's now gone. I don't think it changes anything. Poor bugger who stepped into it. Has got 3 big games. Yeah. It's not Cardiff, mate. They're trying to get Simon Easterby. I don't think they'll get him. They're going to have to pay a lot to get him, but. You know how bad the Welsh job is when Jake White hasn't expressed interest.
I think he's very happy in Pretoria, mate.
When Jake hasn't said it's always been my dream to coach Wales, then you know how bad it is.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the 1998 Welsh team that came to South Africa, the C team. And poor Orwell Thomas was the 10. He looked like he was under 15. He scored a try. They lost 96-13. They would have conceded 100. But Narkodrovska dropped a pass on the way to the try line in the last minute. But Wales had emptied their whole bench except one player. And Bullet, who started the game, Narka came on, James Dalton. He was on the side of the field. And with about 2 minutes to go, he looked at this guy and he said, China, how cuck must you be that you still have they're 96-13 down. And I think it was Kevin Bowery.
They still don't want to put
he
you
hasn't
on.
put that guy on. How cuck must you be? So, yeah, for Wales at this moment. Lots to play for. The Welsh teams in URC. The Dragons will end this round of Vodacom URC hosting Glasgow. And from a South African perspective, you want the Dragons to win at Rodney Parade because that would put Glasgow into 3rd position and the Bulls into 2nd, considering that they do potentially win against the Sharks and they have a game in hand.
Correct.
And the Bulls, they're never going to catch. No one's going to catch Leinster.
No.
So the prize now is to get that top 2 place in and hope that something happens and a Munster comes in somewhere and knocks over Leinster in a semi-final or quarter-final. But that's we start with Edinburgh against Zebra on Friday night. Valentine's Day, we've got the Ospreys against Leinster on Valentine's Day. I fear for the Ospreys there.
Yep.
And then obviously the big one in South Africa is going to be the Bulls at home against the Sharks. I say the big one on paper. The Sharks edged them last time. But you tell me that there's a few Oaks not going to Pretoria this weekend.
Yeah, no,
Would you like to give me that list?
There's a bunch of guys. I mean, just off the top of my head, obviously, Irvin's not playing with concussion. Sia Kolisi.
How long has he ever now been out? About 3 months, eh?
Yeah, since first week of December is when he suffered the concussion.
Yeah, so we wish him well. Hope he gets better.
Yeah.
And the key for me is that Irvin's just got to be ready for the July
For the green
internationals,
jersey, mate.
He's just got to be
100%.
ready for the July internationals, and he's got to be at his peak September the 9th and 16th when we're in Auckland, we're in Wellington to play the All Blacks and to take a bit of history back.
Yeah. So the rest of that list, Andre Esthuizen, Apeleli Fassi, Sia Kolisi and Jaden Hendricks are on Springbok resting periods. Makazoli suspended, as we know. Dylan Richardson won't play. These are all injured guys. Cabron Krobler, James Venter, Kwesi Mona, Manachi Tuka, Oxen Che, not playing. So it's a long and distinguished list of guys.
11 players, I think you've mentioned there. 11 players. There's no Ox, no Sia, no Dylan Richardson.
James Venter.
Sakutsa, which one is out?
Emmanuel Chituka.
He's out. I butchered that surname, I know that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, lads. And then into the backs. I mean, geez. Mapimps, big blow.
It's 19 guys in total.
19, but I mean, 8 of them wouldn't make the side in any case. Yeah. So 11 top players that not going there. And for the Sharks to be successful, and we said that all along, they need to be at full strength. Ordinarily, I would have said this was going to be a close game. I think the Bulls stumped them quite comfortably. I look at... They've picked a decent side, but it's a side that will be 10 to 15 points off the pace against an informed Bulls side.
Spot on.
And I've got the Bulls... I think the Bulls, with Wilco low at the 4, will destroy them in the tight phases. My goodness, it's been great to see Wilco up against Ox, eh?
Jeez.
We've been robbed of that one.
Although Wilco versus Bongi is going to be fun, mate. That's going to be interesting. And Tutuko Kunu there at Lucid, that's a nice matchup. He's taking scalps. Wilco is taking scalps.
Yeah, Wilco was he was just incredible in Cape Town. I did check with Dobbo, and Steve Satoli is fine. Don't worry, he's fine. He does live. He lives to scrum another day, but not against the Bulls.
We'll never play against them again.
I mean, what he learned is there's a time for your hamstring to go, and it's on the Friday afternoon when the Bulls are playing.
When they announce
and Wilco Low is on the is at tight end.
Yeah.
Do you think he was one of ours, man? Think of all the blokes who were at Province of the Stormers pre-Dobbo arriving. Jeez.
To be fair, though, they had Frans Malherbe and Nietis was in the mix. He's as a junior, well, not as a junior, but as a guy coming through, I think.
Well, let's be honest, if you've got Frans Malherbe and Wilco Low in your 23, mate, you know you're going to get your ball from a scrum.
But how are you going to keep those guys? And I had to choose one there. I think Frans Malherbe at the time probably was the right choice.
No, he was the right choice, but Wilco went to Harlequins and really reinvented himself there.
Yeah.
And eventually just forced his way into the Bok selection. Jan Hendrik pulled out. Wilco got in and certainly didn't disappoint when he got an opportunity. With Racing, I think he's very much back in the frame there, and he's been superb for the Bulls in the URC. And he and Gerard Senekam, they have been key to the Bulls' rise from a pretender to a possible contender for the URC.
Spot on.
So I've got the Bulls to win this one comfortably. I've got them to win this one 36-20.
Okay, 16 points.
16 points.
I got the Bulls to win by 12. I hadn't done the maths of what the numbers are going to be, so I'm going to say 28-16.
All right, 28-16. That's 12, and I've got 16 points. So it's a Bulls win that we're going for, and a Stormers win that we're going for. A Bulls win will be fantastic from a South African perspective. So take off your regional, provincial hats. We've got to be back in the Bulls for every match except for in a fortnight's time when obviously I'm back in the Stormers. It's the only one they're allowed to drop. The rest they just I'm wearing Bulls blue for the rest of that time to make sure they do get that home semi-final and correct the wrongs of last year. They were brilliant against Lens in the semi-final, but they completely blew it against Glasgow in that final. As well as Glasgow played, the Bulls should have buried them by halftime. But I also feel that there's a problem when it comes to South African teams in big playoff matches. We do not want a capacity crowd because it filled up Munster, 56,300. They snuck it. Loftus was sold out, 51,000. Glasgow snuck it. Maybe we should have a few empty seats because they seem to get up a bit more with its capacity crowd than our guys do. But we have been so strong in the URC. We had to pay, as Mark Alexander told us, they had to pay 1.9 billion to buy their way into this competition in the Champions Cup. They become full status members at the end of this year, end of the season. But 3 home finals we've hosted in South Africa. The first one under COVID, they filled it 32,000, as many as they could. They would have filled that out. It's just a credit to what our teams have achieved, and we do have the short end of the straw. It doesn't matter what people say when it comes to the travel. We go on tour for 4 weeks. They come here for a maximum of 2 matches, sometimes only just 1 match.
True. Facts.
Anything else you want to add to that?
I think that's it, mate.
Anything
Thanks
else you
for
want to add
tuning
to
in.
that? So the URC, it's going to be a great weekend, but there's great rugby everywhere else.
Yes, there is.
The top 14, always go to SA Rugby, the SAFA Wrap on a Monday, and you see how our boys are doing. There's lots of South Africans playing in that top 14. Dylan Lates for La Rochelle, he's always there and thereabouts in terms of being one of the stars. And Dave Ribbons has really captained Toulon well. Boy from down here, went to Somerset College, played with JD Strickland, played for England. Still remember that great offload of his when England fought back 25-all from 25-6 against the All Blacks to 25-all. He was so instrumental in the one game. He's not even in the squad at the moment. They won't pick anyone who's playing outside of England. They've got so much talent, you know.
So much, mate.
They don't go to. You can be playing in the Champions Cup for the winning team of Europe. You're not going to have to play for England, mate. So always go to SARugbymag magazine on a Monday for that Saffers Wrap. It's my favourite read. I think between Dev Hermanus and Jug, Dylan Johnson, they put it together, if I'm not mistaken, under your eagle eye. And then the Japanese leagues, also in that Saffers Wrap. Look out for Kirtley Orenser. Look out for Damien Dialandi. And always look out for Malcolm Marks. They're always among the try scorers. And look out for Franco Mostert. I think he's always making 100 tackles a game because he plays for Honda Heat. I think they get pumped every weekend, okay? So the big one that starts in New Zealand and Australia, in Fiji, this weekend is Super Rugby Pacifica. And I am going to be watching this tournament. There's 11 teams. The Rebels are out. They are no more. It's 11 teams. The Reds are the only ones not playing this weekend. But we go to New Zealand this year and we play the All Blacks at Eden Park on the 9th of September. On the 16th in Wellington, we host the Australians in 2 tests here. Hopefully it will be in Cape Town, potentially in Johannesburg or one of the big centres. But hopefully Cape Town gets a test against the Wallabies. They haven't been here for a while. There was something starting to happen in Super Rugby Pacific last season, and it wasn't that the Crusaders didn't qualify for the playoffs under Rob Penny. There is a new generation of New Zealand and Australian player coming through, hell of a lot of excitement. And the first game up, Hurricanes against the Crusaders in Wellington. It's going to be a ripper, and we chatted about that Crusaders side a little bit earlier today. It's a good side. They've got a few injuries, but it's a good side that they're putting out. And nice to see some of the key All Blacks starting this tournament. Will Jordan's there. David Havili is there. He's the captain.
Yep.
Scott Barrett is there.
Yep.
You've got James O'Connor who's joined the Crusaders. He's on the bench with Dallas McLeod, who's coming back. I think he made one appearance for the All Blacks. He was his prior selection.
Tamati Williams up front, mate.
Yeah, and he's a good player. Yeah. So, and the Hurricanes will also put out a very good side. No Ardie Sevilla. He's playing for Mano Pacifica. They play against the Force. Him and his butt, the bus, Julian Sevilla. Said to you, if Julian Sevilla's the bus, then Ardie must be the limousine, okay? But they're out in Perth against the Force. They know they don't have to fly to South Africa. They can fly back to New Zealand after that. But a whole, as you'll see on the screen, a whole great list of matchups on Friday, Valentine's evening in New Zealand, and then into the Saturday. And a lot of the All Blacks are involved. The All Blacks from that tour, they won 10 from 14 last season. We thought it was one of their poorest seasons ever. Most teams get a 10 from 14. It's not a bad return. They lost by a point against France. They beat Ireland. They snuck one against England. They struggled against Italy, improvement to Italy. But we did them good by 4 and 6 points respectively. We did keep them trialers in Cape Town. But yeah, I'm interested to see where the Crusaders go, but also what comes out of New Zealand now. Wallace Satidi's out for the Chiefs. He's not playing. The Blues, the champions, they're at home against the Chiefs in the big North Island derby. What do you want to see in Super Rugby Pacific? What are you looking for from a South African perspective?
Yeah, so I think 2 things there. What has got me interested in Super Rugby again this year is the events, the competition organisers have sort of stayed true to and stuck with their desire to see the referee control the game. And they've kind of kept the TMO very much in his box as much as possible. So they're not following the World Rugby Initiative to basically have the TMO run the entire game and the ref to kind of facilitate it. It's the other way around, which I think is fantastic. I think the Kiwis recognise the importance of the scrum and are quite eager to protect the value of that. And then so obviously with us travelling to New Zealand for 2 crunch tests and inside of next year's massive tour here, you kind of want to get to know what's going on with the All Blacks. And I think for Razor, the resurgence plan, the recovery, has got to be built around bringing through the next generation. Because I think there's a bunch of guys that were key players and probably at their prime when he was at the Crusaders that are maybe not quite at their peak anymore. And so the mid to long-term future of the All Blacks and their success and their recovery from where they are in the standings and having ceded first place in the world rankings to South Africa, the road back from that is finding this talent in Super Rugby and bringing it through. So I think there'll be a real focus on the Kiwis dominating this competition. And then obviously the Australians, they've got the British and Irish Lions on their way down under. For them, it's massively important to try and find as much momentum as they can in those regional teams.
And looking at the TARS, Joseph Swahili came into the Wallaby setup with one basically rugby union training session behind him as one of the stars of that Grand Slam tour. They won 2 out of 4.
Yeah.
It just looked special when he was there.
Yeah.
The kind of name that Australian Super Rugby needs is someone who attracts attention. People will go to watch him. I'll tune in to watch him on the telly early hours of the morning because he's just got that star quality about him. And it just is one of those kind of players. We saw with Sonny Bull Williams when he went from league into union, just what he did to players around him, lifted kind of the essence of a match, a tournament. But I'm expecting it to be a fantastic tournament. I think New Zealand are coming. I said that earlier in the week. I think Australia will be a lot better for that end of year tour. And we've seen improvement with the Drua. Obviously, Adi Sevilla going to Manu Pacifica to join his brother Julian is big for that franchise.
Massive.
Tana Umaga there as well. But you know, a lot of that debate about the greatest, the GOATs. And you know, one hates to compare eras, let alone backs or forwards, because it's always in a game of rugby union, is a back better than a forward? Because without a forward, the back can't really function. Without a back, the forward's toils go unnoticed if the fly misses 5 kicks, for example.
Correct.
But with all this love affair with Anton Dupont, it was nice to see that he was human at Twickenham, made a lot of mistakes, probably a 5-6 out of 10 performance, which isn't, it's the way it should be. Not every player can be peaking every game. But England snuffed him out. But for me, when you talk GOATs and you talk people that are up there, I mean, Johnny Wilkinson was outstanding, okay? Fareed Dupree, outstanding. So many different forwards, the mighty McCaws of the world. You look at what we've had in terms of loose forwards. Peter Steff now, World Player of the Year. But Dan Carter. Dan Carter was going through some of the Super Rugby's highlights from the early days. A charge down kick on his debut. Great try from just inside his own half, one step and straight through. And I was thinking if Dupont had done that today, we'd be going, wow, look at this guy. Then, if you look at his career, 4,292 points in 355 matches. He's won everything, okay? 2 World Cups. He always says he doesn't claim the first one because he was injured, but he was brilliant. I was at Eden Park that day when he marshaled that game against France in the league. Obviously, his groin went just before the Canadian game when he was supposed to captain New Zealand. 99 wins, 1 draw in 112 tests. And he played more tests away from home than he played at home. Rugby championships, Tri-Nations totals. I think he won 20 out of 26 against, or 15 out of 19 against South Africa. Won so much in South Africa as well. Went out with that left-footed drop goal, left-footed conversion when they beat Australia in the World Cup final, 2015. 1,598 test points. Won everything with the Crusaders. Went to France, 5 games for Papillon, did his Achilles. They still won the top 40 in that year, so he claims that. Went to Racing. They won the top 40 in 2016. He replaced Pat Lambie had to retire.
Yep.
Went back to Japan, won everything as a 38-year-old in Japan. And then finished at Southbridge, his local club. They won 40-32 in the final. It's the first ever final he'd won. People that he grew up with when he was a kid.
I'm just reading between the lines here, but you're saying he was quite good.
He was quite good, yeah. 2002 through to 2020 in terms of a club and professional career. 2003 through to 2015. I mean, his stats are so ingrained in my head because he's been so good, okay?
Yeah.
Now, when you've done that, you're the GOAT. When you've never made it beyond a World Cup quarterfinal, you're not the GOAT.
Mate, when you barely made it across the equator,
You're not the GOAT.
you're not the GOAT.
So when people want to talk about the GOAT,
Yeah.
go to YouTube,
Yeah.
type in Dan Carter, British and Irish Lions versus the All Blacks, 2005, Wellington second test. The All Blacks won 48-18. Dan Carter scored 33 points in the most complete, number 10, complete rugby performance I've ever seen. And he sustained it throughout his career. The statistics are there. The winning success is there. And every team he went to, he turned them into something magical. So I'm not disregarding the greatness of Anton Dupont as an athlete and as a player. But when people say they've never seen a player remotely close to him, it's the biggest insult to the Dan Carters of the world and the
Agreed.
Johnny Wilkinsons of the
Agreed.
world. And that is my rant
I love it.
on this Thursday.
I love it.
So before we check out Zels, let's just get your things again.
I've got Stormers to win by 3 and I've got Bulls to win by 12.
Okay, I've got the Bulls to win by 16. Jake, we're behind you. And it's not because we're anti the Sharks, guys. It's because the Sharks got 11 players out. Primarily being Oggs, Sia, and Earman. You take that out of mix, and Dylan Richardson is a great backup to Bongi. So you take that out of a pack, man. They've got to be vulnerable. You take Jaden Hendricks out. They are more vulnerable.
Fussy, Andre Estes.
Fussy out. Andre Estes out. Mapimpi out. Come on. If that Sharks team goes up and beats the Bulls at home, Jake's got serious problems. He may as well not go anywhere post the semi-finals. The Bulls have to win.
They will.
And the Stormers, I think they'll bounce back from the heartache of a narrow miss against the Bulls, and they will beat the Lions. I've got them to win by 16 points. Zels has by 12 points. We were on 49,814, 49 million.
Yes.
I'm getting it wrong. 49,814,030 viewers. Thanks to across all our platforms. That's YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Thanks for always tuning in. You guys make it special for us. We love your comments. We love how much you just love rugby, how much you love South Africa, how much you love our teams. And from those who tune in from Ireland, I'm not talking the South Africans there, the Irish there, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, Italy, Romania. We also love your comments. We're just fans of the global game as such. And we had to go and find a prize. And that prize is coming from Steco, all about sustainability, solutions, power. Thanks to Mike Sharman at Retroviral. He's just amazing in what he can organize for us. And to the people at Steco for giving us this. We're going to announce that prize, as I said, on the Monday after the Bulls go down to the Stormers in a thriller in Pretoria. It's 32,000 Rand for this inverter. It's a power prize. We just want to say thank you. The way to enter it is you've got to be on our WhatsApp group. You've got to go to SA Rugby Magazine's Facebook page, the Keo Facebook page, go into my X account, and you've got to tell us why you like this show. That's all we're asking. You've got to tell us why you like this show, and we'll draw a winner. And unfortunately, the winner will be in South Africa, because I don't think you need an inverter if you're outside of South Africa. But a fantastic prize. Zels, it's always special chatting to you. It's going to be a great weekend of rugby. It's Origin weekend. And I think that the school that's going to be celebrating the most in South Africa will be Paul Boys High, because they can't be a loser.